And for those that know Technip, Stone and Webster, they employ 36,000 professionals worldwide. And you can Google it if you want. Just type in Technip, and you'll find they're headquartered in Paris, France. And you'll find out that they are some of the best processing people in the country and in the world. And so from their information, I know exactly how much carbon monoxide and hydrogen can be converted to gasoline, and that's where I have the 70-plus gallons of gasoline per ton MSW. So if you look from start to end in this process, what do you know? Well, we know we got garbage. We know what its composition is. We know that we need to do something with it if we don't want to pollute all our aquifers and stuff in our country. So what do? You can gasify it with Westinghouse Plasma Corporation's gasifier. Why do I select this? I selected it because as an engineer, I consider it the best way to gasify garbage and many waste materials. It's proven so. Plus, they have plasma torches that have proven over time that it's been over 30 years, and the plasma torches have been proven. And it's one of the key concepts of, at the bottom of the gasifier, you need thousands of degrees Fahrenheit temperatures, because that's where most of all your good reactions take place. And you want to drive those reactions forward so you do not have any tars coming out the top of your gasifier. Because a single-stage gasifier where you have no tars exiting the top of the gasifier, you don't plug up equipment and cause all these problems that everybody has with two-stage gasifiers. And Westinghouse Plasma has a single-stage high-temperature gasifier, low pressure, which is probably, as an engineer, I say, the best way currently to gasify garbage and many biomass materials. And I can talk about some of their great benefits also. But anyway, the key thing is, if you look at slide number 3, I show you pictures which you can get on the website and everything that show the Air Products Teesside project. And those are 1,000 tons per day of MSW, where they produce 50 megawatts of electricity, and commissioning it in 2014, which Allison mentioned. And the thing that I like about that is what companies, an Air Product and Chemical Company is an American company, by the way. Isn't it amazing? We got an American company in Allentown, Pennsylvania, that's committed $1 billion of their money to prove out this process. So if you don't think America isn't involved, you need to look at, there's a few people in America called Americans that are actually moving forward with $1 billion investment. Now that's a lot. You can imagine if none of those plants work, you want to buy Air Products and Chemical stock? Let me tell you something. Air Products and Chemicals are probably some of the finest technical people in this country. They make a lot of your industrial gases, nitrogen, hydrogen, carbon dioxide, all these things. If it wasn't for Air Products and Chemicals, you probably wouldn't get a lot of your food products that have been hydrogenated and made safe for you. So these are the kind of people like Air Products, where the technical people and the business people get together with the technical and the business people for Westinghouse Plasma, and we're moving forward. We meaning this country's moving forward. Now, the last slide, you can see my book on municipal solids waste. I wrote it in 2010, and I thought after a couple of years working as an engineer, well, actually, more years than I can count, I decided to pass a lot of this knowledge forward, because I've been in, well, I started out as a farmhand at 75 cents an hour, and I did all the good jobs on a farm as farmhand. And I scooped chicken, well, call it crap, but it was another word was used, and I scooped chicken manure and deer manure and cow manure and just about every kind of thing you ever think of. And then all of a sudden went to the University of Nebraska, where I got my BSS and PhD in chemical engineering, and knowledge was coming in. And I learned that when I worked my way through high school as a farmhand, what I was a manure specialist. Does that give you a clue what education can do for you? I made a marked improvement in my life when I went to college, because I learned about these things I was doing in life to go places. With that, I better stop. One question was asked about, can we do anything with carbon dioxide? Well, I'm just kind of an old Midwestern engineer, and I heard all complaints about carbon dioxide and how it was going to kill us all off and ruin us, and we're going to have green all over the place and this and that and the other, and the sky's going to fall. And I looked at it and I said, well, how about carbon dioxide, just another raw material? And I said, what can you do with it? Well, I remember a couple of things when I was studying. You know, I studied a lot in my life. I like technical materials. But anyway, you take carbon dioxide and interact it with carbon, say charcoal. You convert CO2 plus carbon goes to 2 carbon monoxides. And everybody told me it wouldn't work maybe 2 or 3% conversions. But there was one person that believed me. It wasn't the Lord God. The person that believed me was my wife 5 years ago. And no wife fancied in the audience. So I kept plugging away with my phonetic model and gasification on my computer. Thank the Lord God for the personal computer. I used to start off with side rules. I've made progress since. I still know how to use computers, and I enjoy it immensely. And computers are the best thing old farts ever had. But I can tell you that from this test, I learned a certain regime where if you took carbon dioxide and a carbonaceous material, like any carbonation material's got carbon in it, with steam at the right temperature, you can convert that to syngas, carbon monoxide, and hydrogen. Well, lo and behold, if you can do that, what can you do? You can take carbon dioxide, you react with a carbonaceous material, and you can end up making syngas, and then you can take syngas and make gasoline out of it. Wow, now that's something new. What can you do then? Well, I'm going to make CO2 coming from a coal-fired power plant that everybody says is nasty, and I'm going to take that CO2 and I'm going to convert it to syngas, because I can use crude natural gas coming out of a wellhead. I don't need purified gas. And steam, I can make syngas, and then I can convert that to gasoline. What does that do for you? You don't have to have gasoline made from crude oil. What does that do for you? Well, it pumps about $900 billion into our economy, in case anybody's interested. It creates wealth. You can do it right here in this county. You can either wait for somebody else to do all your work for you, or you can just pull yourself up by your bootstrap and say, I'm American. My forefathers and my foremothers have done wonderful things for me. I'm going to have them lead me by example, and we're going to do it. Enough of my preaching. I'm not a preacher, because I just don't know enough about the Bible, so I'll stick to engineering. Do you have any other questions?
District 1?
Back to me.
District 2?
I'm good.
District 4?
Yes, I do. Along the lines that you said about the carbon dioxide, I guess, going through the coal-fired generating plants, is that correct? Is that what we're referring to?
Well, you can, for example, you can take a corn ethanol plant. Well, in the anaerobic fermenter, what's discharged?
Right.
It comes off carbon dioxide.
Right.
Well, you can take the carbon dioxide from a corn ethanol plant and use my process to make the syngas, and you can make more ethanol. Because once you get the syngas, you can use a biochemical process to make ethanol. So I can double the ethanol production in a plant without using more corn. Well, that solved a lot of the food problem, because everybody's concerned about making ethanol. Well, if I can make ethanol out of carbon dioxide using the carbon dioxide on site by a corn to ethanol plant, then I do a lot of good things for the country. I don't have to disturb the food plant. I keep it, everything's going in the food plants and the corn to ethanol plants.
My question is
Sure.
the emissions that are going on out just north of here from our largest employers. You could take that gas and make that fuel out of there?
My current study is about 70% reduction in CO2 and make fuel out of it, yes.
Thank you.
And I've, based upon the experimental data on a 12.5 ton per day pilot plant data, that we got converting the CO2 to syngas. And then the syngas to gasoline from Technic, Stone and Wester's process study. They actually confirmed my numbers. I'm bragging a little bit, but then after my age, you got to do a little bit of that. And I was very pleased. And we have all the technology in this country to be so wealthy. This country is so blessed. We just need to get our act together and create all these jobs, because we got technology. Let's get the business smarts to do it. The whole country, prosperity was done by business and technology, B&D. So, folks, my idea is let's just go do it.
Thank you, sir.
And after all, somebody deserves a job besides some of us here at the meeting.
District 1?
Okay, thank you.
I don't think we're quite through with the professor.
Oh, yeah. You're trying to get out, but you got to come back.
Well, don't be in a hurry.
Yes, ma'am.
Doctor, in my reading, I found that there have been shows of emissions of dioxin in the atmosphere where there have been some plasma or gasification facilities.
Not to my knowledge. My understanding is that plasma gasification high temperature destroys all the dioxins. That's the reason that plasma gasification is used in all these hazardous wastes and everything else like that, because the dioxins show up in the thermal processes, which are the what's the word I want to use? Like incinerators. Dioxins show up in incinerators because you're using air as your oxygen source. Mm-hmm. And so there, when you burn it in a incinerator where you're using an excessive amount of oxygen and your nitrogen and everything else, you end up forming these dioxins. Well, with plasma gasification, you're using an oxygen-deficient atmosphere and high temperatures. where you're driving practically everything you have got. It's harmful into carbon monoxide, hydrogen, and everything else is broken down to you get a vitrified slag. It's kind of like coming off a volcano. If you know any volcanoes that have vitrified slag, they're calling it leaching when they're right there in the ocean, most of them. Vitrified slag, and it's in my book, it's on 185 and everything, where people in other parts of the world, like Japan, and what they're doing is they're taking ash that's coming off of a coal-fired power plant, and they're running it into a plasma gasification plant. And of course, they supply energy to it, but they vitrify the ash till it's vitrified slag, so it's no longer a toxic material. So plasma gasification has many applications. You just have to study it and work with competent engineering firms. I didn't say all engineering firms are competent. I'm just saying I know a few that I trust by working with them. If you get the right people doing the right job of it, you can be very successful. Any other questions?
Well, let me finish this.
Oh, sorry.
There's an article, I guess, about the plant in Japan, and it said that that's the plant the dioxins were from, and it says last for the sense, and dioxins and furans can reform at certain temperatures if chlorine is present. So,
What's the article?
it's something I got off of the internet.
Could you send me a copy of that? Do you have my internet?
Yeah, and I have read a couple of other places. I keep doing research and trying to do.
That's good.
Well, it mentions about things being emitted into the atmosphere that are harmful. So I keep hearing you and Mr. McIntyre say that there are no emissions, that the system is, foolproof. I guess in a perfect world, everything doesn't go exactly right. Things break down, and I guess things could change with temperatures or other things might be present. But I wondered if you knew of anything.
We have enough regulation from the Environmental Protection Agency and the state agencies, and very few companies that I would know would want to be putting dioxins into the air to harm somebody, because once you do and get caught at it, you're broke. In this country, you will not survive in the private sector if you do harm to the citizens, because the government's going to knock the heck out of you. And I'll guarantee you one thing, with the litigious system we have in this country, and let me tell you, that regulatory force is awesome. And Americans face more restrictions to keep you straight and narrow than any other country I know of.
Okay. Are you familiar with a plant in Ottawa, Canada called Plasco?
I'm a little bit familiar with it, but I do know when it was running properly, but they had a two-stage gasifier system. We had tars and stuff coming on. If you have to do 2 stages, you probably failed in the first stage to get on a syngas you want. You go to the second stage, you got tar type things. Well, tars plug up everything. So if you didn't run the second stage just right, then you got a real problem downstream, because then you can operate very long. But when Plasco was, from what I understand, was running, had it actually running a little while, maybe a week, they had no problems. But their problem was they didn't have a good gasifier. And when they did try to use some torches, they weren't using Westinghouse plasma torch, for example. The thing you got to understand when you build a plant, you better have good plasma torches. Westinghouse Plasma Corporation has been longer in business providing those torches.
Well, that's what I mean. Not everything always goes perfectly.
No.
But the one in Ottawa just closed down the last 3 months.
Yes.
And it says Ottawa severs ties with Plasco as company files for creditor protection. And just reading the article just brought up some questions. They had a plant, and it was going, and they were producing 300 tons a day, which is closer to what we might have in Putnam County. And it says that it resulted in a loss of 80 jobs. So if they're running a plant with 80 employees and they're only producing 300 tons a day, I was wondering how you were figuring 450. If you had 300 tons a day and you had 1,000 tons a day, like you're talking about having Mr. McIntyre, that'd be 3 times that, so that'd be 240 employees.
Okay,
3 times
thank you,
that.
Nancy. First of all, you're comparing a grape to a grapefruit. The plant that you mentioned basically was a high-tech incinerator. It burned it at 1,000 with emissions, and then what was left over, it burned at 2,000 with emissions. It had nothing to do with Westinghouse Plasma, Alter Energy, APAGE, GE, or any other companies that we are actually associated with. I would never recommend anything like that, because actually all it is a high-tech incinerator. It had lots of ash, as Dr. Young has indicated to you. And I think there's other areas. I think one time it came up, Chip, you indicated that Gainesville was looking at something like that. And again, it was a PASO system, and they were looking at a woody type product, Chip. And the investor there basically was trying to do a woody type product and try to get gasification out of it. And I think this is one you all must understand. Lots of companies use the word gasification. They'll come out, in fact, there'll even be some landfills that say they're gasifying things. It's the advanced plasma arc gasification energy is the torches that gets the high temperature that really disposes of everything and does what
Yes,
we talked
plasma
about.
gasification project is the word that they use for this type of project.
Well, then misprinted it because it's not a plasma gasification. And it had nothing to do with Westinghouse. That's the key factor. They might have used some other torches. But again, if you get down to it, it's 1,000 degrees and a 2,000 degrees centigrade.
Like anything else, you got to be careful what you buy, who you buy it from. Just like buying a tractor for a farm. You buy a good tractor, John Deere's a good one.
I have one more question. There's not that much information out there, and there are not many plants in the world, so we have to go by what we have. But I just wanted to ask this question about that plant. They had a contract with Ottawa, and the contract was a 20-year plan. Of course, it didn't go to fruition because it failed. But it said that the contract would have paid Plasco $9.1 million a year to take up to 300 tons of garbage a day. That's a very big price.
Well, I can't talk about business arrangement that we're doing with Plasco because, first of all, it's like anything else in business. You got technology, you got business. And what you need is to get good business people, good technical people, so that you can prosper in your community. And I can't talk about what went on in Canada because that's way beyond first of all, I wouldn't want to know all their details anyway, because if I think they're using the wrong gasifier in the stages, I don't even want to be associated with knowing much of anything. I know they're going to have
Thank you,
problems.
Doctor. You say you don't have any information on that, so
That's right, thank you.
Fix that out.
I just want to compare that number with something that Larry Gass said the other day, that if we brought on 400 more tons a day from another county, that we would make about $3.6 million in a year. So I just wanted to get that number in place, that this gasification plant was going to be $9.1 million a year for 300 tons, and doing what we're doing with the landfill, which we already have in place, was 3.6 for about the same amount. Okay, I was trying to match the number of employees and cost of production.
Okay, well,
Any further questions for Dr. Young?
that's not a good question for me.
That's fine.
But I tell you what, if you have questions, though, you have my email. You send me anything, Nancy, and I appreciate it, and I will look at it and promise you. My wife's name's Nancy, and Nancy and Gary will get in touch with you, okay?
Thank you.
And I would appreciate it, to be honest. I'm just an old man, and you keep me busy. You give me some questions. Thank you.
Thank you,
Anyone
Doctor.
else?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
By the way, I do appreciate your patience. My wife will tell you that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. McIntyre, who's next?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's always a question that constantly comes up about financing. We do have our chief financial officer who works directly with all of our investors, and if you would like, he is here and would like to address that we do have the money and we're ready to move forward. If you would like for him to come forward.
It's the pleasure of the board.
Yes.
I think we still have some technical questions. Our director may have some questions, and I would rather stay with that technical component.
Sure.
And then you can talk about financing, which I don't know the relativity right now in this meeting, but whatever the pleasure of the board is fine with me.
Sure, yeah.
Put your
I think
microphone down, Mr. Gass.
before we get through, maybe not now, but we do need to ask questions about finances.
We
That's
do.
very
I'm saying
important.
I want to keep all with the technical part, then we can do with the financing part of a specific company. Because right now, when you start dealing with a specific company, it's as if you're getting ready to engage in some type of contract, and that's not where we are. Mr. Gass.
I had some questions that probably different people may be able to answer for me.
You asked the question, and then you decide, Mr. McIntyre, who you would like to call to respond. Thank you.
Was there a waste characterization done on the United Kingdom Tees Valley plants? Because most of the waste characterizations I've seen from European countries are totally different than the waste characterizations in the United States.
Okay. Allison, I would probably say, can you answer that? Because that's actually more on Westinghouse.
So yes, sir, there was certainly a waste characterization done. I cannot comment exactly how it differs. The weight differs in Tees Valley as it would in Putnam County. But in general, I would say that the waste in a society in the UK is very similar to that in the United States.
Okay. And the Tees Valley sold their production directly to the government. Is it correct that they bought the power in bulk to put to the grid rather than going through the normal supply and demand process? From their latest publication that I saw, they said that that was what they did, that the actual government bought it as their green credit energy, and then the government was supplying it to grid, collecting money for it.
Yes, there is a structure, a financial structure involved with bulk production of the electricity there. I don't know the breakdown of it, but they are receiving a portion of the revenue from electricity generation is coming from renewable energy credits.
Okay, and they also said that the 1,000 ton per day facility in Tees Valley had 50 employees operating it. How do we go from 1,000 ton facility with 50 employees operating it to 450 employees for another 1,000 ton per day facility?
Good question, Larry. First of all, they probably meant 50 employees per shift, and there's 3-4 shifts. There's no way that you could operate a plant of that size, and if you've seen it, it's a large facility. Now, keep in mind, that particular facility, they receive waste different than we will. We'll receive it under a single string process, and again, that will be collected, sorted, and before it goes into the hopper. Now, that will be a certain amount of employees. Once it goes from there into the plasma or gasification, then that's basically very lab-orientated. Lots of people will be there testing it to make sure it moves properly through the system. And of course, what we call the back end, which is the fuel producing system, that also employs more people. So the 450 employees is actually probably a very conservative number, but also keep in mind what we want to do here is also make this a national headquarters, and we will we'll look at one of the buildings that you have up in your enterprising area. We'd like to buy that building, and we'll spend about $5.5 million converting that building into a national headquarters, so many people will be employed out of that building itself.
Okay, Westinghouse Plasma Corporation, is that part of the Westinghouse Corporation, or is that part of Alter Energy?
Westinghouse Plasma Corporation is a wholly owned subsidiary of Alter Energy. Alter Energy is a Canadian company. Westinghouse Electric is a nuclear company owned by Toshiba. So we are not affiliated, other than the fact that we both pay royalty
For the name.
fees for the brand. So the technology itself was developed by corporate Westinghouse, the same company that developed the nuclear technology, developed plasma technology, and it has remained unchanged since.
Since 2005, California has been trying to institute alternative technology disposal for solid waste. Has this technology from Alter Energy gotten approval as a alternative disposal technology for California?
I'm not familiar with the regulations within California, so we currently don't have any active projects being developed in California, so I don't have any current information feedback about that.
Okay. I do have a copy of the air permit that you referenced about the St. Lucie plant.
Correct.
And the Section 1, general information about that plant, states the facility regulatory classification as a HAP, that the facility is a major source of hazardous air pollution. And it also has it listed as a Title V major source of air pollution in accordance with Chapter 213 FAC. That's the air permit for the St. Lucie plant that you said that you're following the same guidelines for.
We're basically using Westinghouse plasma, that's which was presented to the St. Lucie thing. Their operating permit, from my understanding, Larry, was it was passed and ready to move forward. Now, again, we will, at this particular plant where we build it, we'll have to go through a similar process of air operating permits and DEP and DOP and all that kind of stuff. So we're prepared to do that, and we'll meet all the requirements and regulations.
Okay, I was kind of wondering how you get the 1 to 3 tons reduction in greenhouse gases per ton of municipal solid waste when most of that is going to be reproduced back up into CO2 within the atmosphere, or when you actually bury solid waste, you actually sequester carbon and don't have that reform as a greenhouse gas.
Okay. Dr. Young? Oh, Dr. Liu?
Could you repeat that question again about greenhouse gases?
Yeah, let's try to figure out how to get the 1 to 3 tons reduction in greenhouse gas through the plasma gasification, since everything is being turned into what will eventually be a CO2 byproduct. When you landfill waste, you actually sequester some of the carbon, and that is not going into the greenhouse gas carbon dioxide.
Well, actually, I gave a big paper about this in February at this big conference in San Diego. And actually, when you take municipal solid waste and you gasify it, you actually get an increase of 0.7 tons of greenhouse gas to the atmosphere. However, since that MSW does not go into landfills, you don't get the methane gas that would normally come out of there. So there is a reduction of 1.5 tons of greenhouse gases. Also, with the increased electricity that you get from the MSW, you actually save a lot of coal being incinerated in a coal-fired power plant, and that's an additional 1.2 tons reduction. And also, recall that municipal solid waste is at least 60% of it, 50 to 60% is considered carbon neutral. So that's not counted as a greenhouse gas. So that's a 0.4 tons reduction. So this total, when you take the initial negative and add the other reduction, you get 2.4 tons of greenhouse gas reduction altogether. And please bear in mind that I have a reference to this in the presentation, and I can send it to you too. The largest coal plant in the U.S., 3,600 megawatts, generates 2.36 tons of CO2 per ton of coal combusted. So if we process an equal amount of municipal solid waste that coal plant is producing, you would actually completely offset all the greenhouse gases that would be coming out of that coal plant, the benefits you get from the municipal solid waste. And even the EPA states that for conventional gasification, for every ton of greenhouse gas that you, every ton of municipal waste that you send through a conventional gasification, you reduce at least 1 ton of greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. So even there on the same page as we are. And they're talking conventional, and I'm talking plasma, 1 to 3 tons of greenhouse gases. And I can send you EPA presentations on that too if you want to see those.
Are there any permits in the United States for the use of the slag produced by this product? I know that the state of Florida currently is using some thermal conversion waste material being placed into concrete, being placed into asphalt, and is requiring groundwater monitoring for all areas where this is being used.
Yeah, well, we don't have any major plasma plant in the United States that's producing this particular slag, but as I was saying in my presentation, the Japanese have conducted studies, and they've been using this for years. Is aggregate or concrete and asphalt, and the French is doing it. And it was the French government that actually conducted the study, and I have that the paper here. I can send you the complete document in French, if you want that. But I have the summary on that, and I haven't seen any problem with using that slag. They've been doing it for 20 years, and the European limitations are more strict than they are in the U.S.
And this is from the same waste streams that we have here?
Oh, yeah. Municipal solid waste. As a matter of fact, at Georgia Tech, we're the ones that did the initial studies, for the Sea of Bordeaux. They gave us a contract. And actually it was from incinerator ash, from their incinerator. But the waste was the same essentially in the United States. They said it's 5,000 pounds.
Have there been any studies as to the amount of things in the slag that would be released when a sizing operation would be done during the crushing and the operation of that slag to make it where it is suitable for use with concrete or road base or any of that kind of stuff?
Well, this was a portion of the French study that the French government did. They checked different sizes, and it was essentially all the same. But in the same way, we have done our own studies at Georgia Tech, and especially with the mineral wool. You're not going to get it any finer, than something like this. And this is resistant to leaching. Is the big boulders that we tested. So and we use standard TCLP test, they call it, for the EPA.
I noticed that there was a requirement for 20% tires to have the optimum efficiency.
This is the tires. I think that was just an example.
Okay.
That they use, a model that they used.
Because the air permit for St. Lucie did not allow that amount of tires to be burned in the facility.
No, I think he was talking about the this particular waste fuel model that he had put together.
Okay.
Point of order, can you hear me under that? Since you said you think, can you let proper person answer that because you said you were thinking? I want the person who has the answer to bring the answer for the record, please.
Yeah.
He likes it again. Mm-hmm.
Please
Yes,
ask your question.
your model of the optimum use showed 20% tire and 8%.
Well, I did say it was the optimum use. That was an example because I had the mass and energy balance data on a 800 ton per day MSW feed with 200 tons per day tires. And I just used that as an example because I had mass energy balance, good information. So I could then work my way to seeing how much gasoline was made. So therefore, as an engineer, I was using valuable exact data to create the example here for the presentation, because I didn't want to dream these numbers up. I mean, I have all the information in my company that I'll go anywhere under the right circumstances, and I'll show you exactly. This is all known stuff. I don't come before you folks unless I know my facts are straight.
Okay, go by this question and credibility.
Oh, I know that, Carl, but I'm saying is,
Listen to me
yes,
just
sir,
a
go
moment.
ahead.
Answer his question now that he knows that it was not, something that was hard. In fact, that you used it as an example. I think that's all he needs
Well,
to
thank
know.
you, Carl. I do appreciate that.
Thank you. Just wanted
That
to
was
know
very
why.
thoughtful of you to step in there because you're chairman. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Anything else, sir?
That's it.
Oh, I sure appreciate it. Next
Okay,
time
yeah,
you can
the-
ask me another question, I'd really like to hear it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very kindly. Any other questions on the technical components before we move forward to financial?
I have something just to ask Mr. McIntyre. Is that okay?
Sure.
Mr. McIntyre, I wanted to ask you, I touched on this before, but since you're proposing a commercial solid waste disposal facility worth hundreds of millions of dollars, could you please describe each of your principal officers' experience with commercial solid waste disposal?
Well, everyone that has come up here and spoke will be involved on the engineering design of it. Westinghouse Plasma does engineer, design it, and actually takes it all the way out to the construction end of it. We'll have an EPC, which is an engineering procurement contract, which guarantees that project will work. He will actually build it, and he's actually the one building one in Tees Valley, England. And then, of course, as I pointed out earlier, we have Mr. Bobby Barnes with Willis Insurance, which is actually in the engineering and fuel capacity of Willis, which actually secures the investors. I always laugh that these investors are coming together and putting out a lot of money, but every bit of their money is insured through the insurance company. So there's really no risk on that part.
Okay, what does EPC stand for?
Engineering procurement contract. That's the actual contractor.
So he will work day to day at the facility,
Correct.
and
we have
you'll employ him.
we have other people beside myself that will be boots on the ground with that individual to follow through and keep the cost and budget in line.
Okay, but each of your principals do not have any experience in the solid waste or plasma gasification.
The principals that are involved are very big. They have involved in many hundreds of companies, so I don't really know exactly how many and what capacity. I think at sometimes I can't open that door particularly to use a name, but they have actually owned different landfills and things of that particular nature. So they are familiar with the waste industry.
When I asked a question to the top three, that you had you and two others, none of you had experience. And one thing that really bothered me, let me see, the project in Ottawa closed down, and it had been going for at least 5 years. And this one comment says, I do not understand why the city signed a deal with a company that seems to have so little experience in plasma art gasification.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, I sure hope our citizens don't come back and say that about us. And it just kind of wakes me up. So I need to know, what experience does your company have as far as boots on the ground, every day, not someone from far that you call and ask. And it indicates how strong your company is for us to trust you to do this.
Sure.
So that's why I'm asking.
Yes, I understand there will be boots on the ground, and I'm sure you understand, Nancy, when we sign these employees on, they will be very professional, and I spent many years on it, and we will do a complete background check on them. You don't go out and hire the plant manager before the plant is starting to break ground. That would be very expensive, because you're talking a plant manager probably in the neighborhood of $200,000 a year. So once we break ground and start construction, then that particular plant manager will be involved in all aspects of it as it moves forward. And we do have people in mind that we talk to on that, but they're actually employed with other companies now, and I don't want to mention their names, if you don't mind, please.
Okay. I think that, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I think you told us in the beginning that there are times the plant is shut down, that the torches have to be replaced, and that there are things that you have to do routinely in that type of business. And I was wondering, if you had 1,000 tons a day coming in, how will you handle that if you have to shut down?
Well, again, there's
how
lots
will
of
we handle it?
information that has come to me. Actually, Westinghouse now has established that the torches do not have to be removed at biennium, this electron probes can be taken out and put back in while all the other torches are going. Would you like to address that?
Yeah, I'll answer that more completely. So one of the advantages of the Westinghouse plasma technology is the fact that the operation is not pressurized. So the gasifier itself is not pressurized. So if as plasma torches need to be maintained, which they will, because it's a piece of equipment that needs maintained just like your car, they can be removed in and out of the gasifier as gasifier still operates and processes municipal waste. So the gasifier itself, depending on how large it is, will have a certain number of plasma torches mounted on it, and their periodic maintenance cycle will require one of them to be removed and replaced with one that has been tuned up, per se, while the others continue to process the municipal waste coming in. So that's one of the advantages of the Westinghouse plasma technology as opposed to an incinerator or a traditional gasifier, whereas if there is some sort of need to do maintenance on the gasifier itself, the whole system needs to come down, whereas the Westinghouse plasma gasifier is not like that.
So you do not anticipate times when a system would be shut down?
For any facility, whether it's a traditional coal power plant, a traditional natural gas power plant, there are planned maintenance shutdowns, just like they happen here, they happen anywhere. So, and not particular to the gasification technology, the turbine itself, any kind of pumps and fans, even base utilities, supply, water, to flush your toilets, will need to be regularly maintained. So just like any facility that's built, there will be planned maintenance periods for shutdown.
I understand.
Yeah.
And I was trying to deal with that. What I was having trouble understanding is if we have 1,000 tons of garbage come into Putnam County every day, that's huge. That's a lot. We have 200 tons now, and we're working very fast, but 1,000 is just, it's hard to fathom. So if those are coming in, it's shut down for 3 or 4 days. What do we do with all of that? Is there a plan for that? Or can the county shut down its landfill if you were operating, or do we need to keep it going to try and help the backflow? Just how will that work?
One of the exciting things that we have enjoyed about Putnam County, not only the good people and beautiful area, is that you do have a landfill. So if there was a shutdown, or if I use, for example, a hurricane that hit the area, and now we have 5,000 tons of limbs and leaves and things of that particular nature, we would be able to put it into your landfill and draw off of it. And anything we put into the dormant landfill will be taken and put back into our system as we grow, as needed. So,
You would want us to keep the landfill going?
what we recommended to the staff or to your committee was to basically, EPA basically said it's called a dormant landfill. We don't anticipate it ever being used, but for emergency purposes. That's the good thing about Putnam County. You could have that landfill available for us if it was needed. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Guest, is that something you understood?
Well, the thing that I was trying to understand is how would you fund the landfill to keep opening if you're getting the revenues for the disposal of waste?
I think we're contributing back to Putnam County with taxes and everything now, somewhere in the neighborhood of about $7 million a year. This is not going to be an easy process, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have to sit down with your county manager, your county attorney, and work out all the details that is going to be beneficial for Putnam County and its citizens. We have the finances to do that, so yes, it will be a process, and the landfill is something that would, we think could be worked out. We may have to lease it. Again, it's something that can be worked out over time, or you tell us what you want.
I'd like to say something, Ms. Harris, about the problem that you mentioned about one of the plants closing down. Dr. Camacho and I have always advocated at least a 2-line operation. So you got 2 lines working at the same time. So if one goes down scheduled maintenance, the other can still operate. And these have some overflow built into them anyway. If it's 1,000 tons a day on this plant, it could probably take at least 1,200 tons a day. The same with the other plant. So you have scheduled maintenance or unscheduled maintenance. It just breaks down. You're still working. You're still producing electricity, and you can increase the number of lines. Like at Tees Valley, there's 3,000 to 4,000 tons a day being produced in that area. You could have 4 lines, and if one goes down for unscheduled maintenance, then it should not be a problem for the other lines to make that happen.
Thank you. A visual picture helps sometimes. Thank you.
I'll
Mr.
expand on
McIntyre,
that.
while you're addressing that issue, we have heard over and over that this county does not want outside waste. If we're going to say definitely need 1,000 to make this happen, how will 1,000 or the additional 800 get to the landfill? Is it going to be trucks, and how are you going to negotiate contracts to get it?
We have 3 years before the plant will be open and working. We will definitely go out throughout all of Florida Florida right now, it's about 14 million tons into dumps or landfills. So all we're looking for is about 400,000 tons. So we're not even using 1% of what they actually put into landfills right now. We feel like with everything that we bring to the community, tire recycling, so they don't have to get the tires and worry about where they're going right now. So we feel like everything coming in and everything that we can offer a community now will be very beneficial to them. Not only it will be beneficial from them to, because our tipping fee is a little lower than what we've seen out in the surrounding community, they will also get tax credits back from the fuel that we produce. So there's really a very good wash in there for the communities that we're looking at that would bring weight in.
I don't think you answered my question, but it sounded good what you said.
Well, ask it again. I'm sorry. I do want to answer all the questions, Mr. Black.
This community has indicated to us in more than one meeting that we don't want outside waste. I think we're at the point now that we know that in order for us to maintain any viable option, that there will be waste that's generated somewhere else that will end up here in order for any of the options that I have heard thus far.
Correct.
Where will the waste come from, and how will the waste arrive to Putnam County?
I'm sorry I didn't answer that. First of all, we do plan on bringing in rail. We've already talked to CXX and bringing in a rail so that we can ship it in and it will be dropped into the plant. Mr. Larry can tell you that when waste comes in, it has to be disposed of in a 24-hour period of time. It can't be sitting on our floor. So once it comes in, it will immediately start processing. So it's not hanging around. So in a 24-hour period, that 1,000 tons is being disposed of. And then when the next 1,000 comes in, so it's been disposed of basically in a 24-hour period.
Coming in on the rail, you said?
That's what we're anticipating. We're going to have rail available, yes, sir. We will go out, I'm sure you understand, beneficial for us as well as surrounding counties, Clay County, St. Johns County, Alachua County, which are producing 400 tons a day or more. And we feel like once we present this program to them, that they would, because of lower tipping fees and also because of the recycling and capabilities that we have for them, it would be interesting for them to going forward.
Do you anticipate when you reach out to any other community that their existing contractor is going to not at least be competitive?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
When you reach out to any other entity, and obviously the farther you transport garbage, the more expensive it is for you to handle it, do you think that the contiguous counties in Northeast Florida, if that was the area that you primarily focused on, do you think that the existing contractors are going to not at least counter you and so they maintain their market?
Yes, sir. We do believe that we have a very large target on our back. It is a competitive market. I think the one thing that we offer, Mr. Flagg, and I think the citizens and you as commissioner, you as commissioners, when it comes down to it, when you look at it, instead of, and I just use Clay County for example, they're shipping it right out to a Georgia landfill. When it comes down to it, you commissioners, wouldn't you rather have it disposed of 100% and not going to any landfill anywhere? And I think that's also at a less price than right now. Now, if they do come up more competitive, which, again, I don't see that happening, now, one of them comes up and says, well, we're going to lose money to keep them out of the game, we're very competitive also. So I think we'll be right in the ballgame. And there's plenty of opportunity. Like I said, there's 14 million tons, and all we need is 400 tons.
Mr. Libo.
Well, along the same lines, I know from my research that the average cost of per ton with plasma arc is about $83, $85 in there. Now, that's a long way from, say, Waste Management's transfer station to Georgia, Chester Island, Georgia, at $33 a ton. Mm-hmm. How do you plan to knock $50 off that? Well,
basically, as I indicated to you quite earlier, I think that's all of them. My tipping fee is $29. If we go outside the county, because you will receive a 10% commission on stuff we bring in on outside the county, so we have to charge those counties $3 more. So we'll be at about $33 on a county outside of us, outside of Putnam County. So you will actually get revenue from that. And again, keep in mind, and I think this is what lots of people don't understand, the tipping fee is really just a base. We make money on the back end. As you indicated,
I want to hear about back end because I'm using your European figures where this technology is being applied, and it's no less than $83 a ton. Okay. That's a long, long way.
Well, I can sit here and tell you that our contracts with Putnam County will be $29 a ton chip, and it will not be anywhere close to that. We have to have fuel being waste brought into us.
Got to distribute that fuel. Where's that going to go? That's what I'm getting at. The fuel that you're going to have to take to syngas somewhere for sale.
Oh, yes.
Get that per ton price down.
I'm sorry. We have.
You just tell me it's going to be $32, and I believe you. I really do. But how are you going to get there?
There's two processes. First of all, we already have letters of intent from Mustard Oil, Marathon Oil, and Gate Petroleum right here in Jacksonville. They will buy all of the fuel that we can produce. And I would basically throw numbers out to them. We produce about 20 million gallons of diesel fuel. That's what we're producing. Well, and they will be willing to buy it at market value. Now, they could not stay what the market value will be in 3 years, but if you really look at diesel fuel, that does hold a very good base, and it doesn't fluctuate like gasoline or things of that particular nature. So diesel fuel is the commodity that we will support. Now, keep in mind, that is just one fuel that we can produce. There are other chemicals and other fuels that are very soluble that can go up to 5